Matt's Top 10 Movies of 2017.
For a movie to be memorable to me, it needs to do one of three things. It needs to be highly enjoyable and one I can watch over and over. It needs to push the art of filmmaking forward, or it needs to leave a lasting impression on me where I think about it for days after I finish watching. 2017 was a great year for movies. As of this recording, I've watched 60 full-length movies that came out in 2017, and I'm going to discuss the top 10 of those movies now.
Number 10.
A sequel to the sci-fi classic Blade Runner, about a dystopian future full of human-like androids. I've got to admit, I was not a fan of the original Blade Runner. I didn't actually see it until it was 30 years old, so it was probably just dated and overhyped. But the sequel is incredible. Every camera shot could be printed and hung on the wall. The set pieces are massive, and the sound will rattle your bones. On top of all that, the story is actually very interesting, and pushing 3 hours long and keeping my interest the entire time is no small feat. So much of this movie had to have been filmed in front of a green screen, but the CGI was so good, I couldn't tell which scenes were real and which scenes were not. I only wish that I had gone to see this movie in IMAX. To appear blind, Jared Leto actually purchased contacts that when he wore them, made it impossible for him to see. The term Blade Runner was never once used in the novel that the movie was based on. Even though this is a critically acclaimed movie and nominated for an Academy Award, it lost quite a lot of money at the box office. Androids, mystery, dystopia, virtual girlfriends, Elvis holograms, giant nude statues, wide open spaces, flying cars, water reflecting off of walls.
Number 9.
A shape-shifting evil force terrorizes a group of children in a small Maine town. Stephen King had a good year. For decades, none of his stories were done justice on the silver screen. But in 2017 alone, he had two great straight-to-Netflix movies, 1922 and Gerald's Game. He had an awesome TV show called Mr. Mercedes, and It, which is now the highest-grossing horror film of all time. People are going to argue until the end of time on who was the better Joker. Was it Heath Ledger? Was it Jack Nicholson? I think now people are going to argue who was the better Pennywise the Dancing Clown, Tim Curry or Bill Skarsgård. Regardless of your thoughts on who the scarier portrayal of that clown was, there's no doubt that this adaptation of It is much better than the 1990 TV miniseries. What makes the movie so great is the nostalgic tone. If you grew up in the 80s, you're probably going to love it, but also the chemistry of the kids. I honestly think I would have liked this movie just as much even if the clown wasn't in it. Watching these kids interact with each other and the coming-of-age story was incredible. It reminds me of Stand By Me meets Stranger Things. It was shipped to theaters under the name Pound Foolish. Get it? Pennywise and Pound Foolish? The all-time highest-grossing horror film. HBO talk show host John Oliver makes a cameo appearance in the background of a diner scene. Leaving your bikes in the middle of the street. Splunking through the sewers. Clowns. Making paper boats. Teen crushes. Cliff jumping. Bloody bathrooms.
Number 8.
After dying unexpectedly, a ghost is trapped inside his home. I don't think I've ever watched a movie that better captures and makes the audience feel a sense of isolation and depression. Even at 90 minutes, this movie is an endurance match and it will test anyone's patience and attention span. While the movie does feel tedious, it is well worth the journey. A ghost story has very little dialogue, and the dialogue that's there isn't even important. There are many scenes where literally nothing happens. Shots of an empty room, of a blank wall, a couple lying in bed for minutes on end, and then there's the 5-minute pie eating scene. A single moment can feel like an eternity, and years can pass in an instant. I don't know whether I should give Casey Affleck credit or the costume designer credit for creating such a simple character with such complex emotions. While I watched A Ghost Story, I could not wait for it to end, and ever since it's ended, I cannot quit thinking about it, and I want to recommend it to everyone I know. Just beware, this movie is not for everyone. It is very, very slow. The film's budget came from the director's previous movie, Pete's Dragon, which if you haven't seen is really, really good. The notorious pie eating scene was the first time Rooney Mara had ever eaten a pie in her entire life. Watching paint dry. Thinking snails are too fast. Charlie Brown's Halloween costume. Movies with no dialogue. Watching people sleep. Eating pie. Grief and depression.
Number 7.
A young Mexican boy is transported to the land of the dead after stealing his great-great-grandfather's guitar. Coco is the most beautifully animated movie of the year. Even the Loving Vincent's animation is more impressive. The story is fun, it's funny, it's sad, it's heartwarming. It's got a couple of unexpected twists as well. And this is one that kids and adults are both going to love. I don't know if it's Pixar's best movie, but it's in the top 3. If you look closely, you can see the characters from other Pixar movies in the background. In production from 2011 until 2017, which is Pixar's longest production movie to date, has spent more days at #1 in the box office than any animated movie of the 21st century. Banning your kids from listening to music, slowly turning into a skeleton, the Day of the Dead celebration, breathtaking animation, really old grandmothers, family, and stealing guitars.
Number 6.
When Dom, played by Vin Diesel, is approached by a stranger on his honeymoon in Cuba, he turns his back on his family and seemingly becomes an international terrorist. The unlikeliest of franchises to have 8 installments somehow keeps getting better. Fast 8 is Sharknado with a budget and a lot of heart. The movie knows it's ridiculous, and that's what makes it great. It's as if the writer of the film was car designer Homer Simpson, who literally threw everything into this movie. The cast features every single notable character from any of the previous films, with the exception of Jordana Brewster for some reason, Paul Walker for obvious reasons, and the long-haired Asian fellow who died on screen in at least one of the previous installments. But even an on-screen death in this franchise does not guarantee that you won't be back at some point. Have you ever wondered what a Lamborghini on ice would be like? A car chase featuring a submarine? A wrecking ball tearing through a busy city street? What it would be like if every single car on the road had autopilot and was equipped with harpoons? How about if it rained cars on a New York City street? What if there's a baby listening to Alvin and the Chipmunks, and that baby isn't involved in a shootout on an airplane? At some point in the series, the following characters have all been bad guys: Vin Diesel, Dwayne Johnson, Kurt Russell, Jason Statham, and Luke Evans. But for some reason, they're now all good guys. But once again, Dwayne Johnson, he owns this movie. His character is the human version of the Incredible Hulk. The vehicle that he drives is the vehicular version of the human version of himself. Trust me, it makes sense. He oozes charisma, and he can even pick out a heat-seeking missile while looking in his rearview mirror. The plot doesn't matter. It's just Mad Max on ice. The movie is filled with overacting and underacting. It's balls-to-the-wall absurdity, and somehow by the end you were filled with emotion, and you'd probably be embarrassed to admit that the last scene might have made you tear up a little bit. Features 2 Oscar winners, Charlize Theron and Helen Mirren. It's currently the widest release IMAX movie of all time, 1,079 screens. This is the first film in the series directed by F. Gary Gray, who formerly directed one of my favorite movies from a couple of years ago, Straight Outta Compton. Car chases, heist, spy movies, high-tech gadgetry, bald men, prison breaks, cute babies, double crossing, wrecking balls, nuclear weapons, computer hackers, rooftop picnics, backwards car races, doing Polynesian dances on a soccer field, Alvin and the Chipmunks, and Bentleys equipped with harpoons.
Number 5.
A young kid with a gift for driving crosses paths with the wrong man, who then forces him to be the getaway driver for a set number of robberies. Remember how everyone was obsessed with the soundtrack to Guardians of the Galaxy, and then the Suicide Squad trailer came out playing that Queen song and people were blown away about how well the action scene matched the music? Well, Baby Driver has a better soundtrack than Guardians. You get major points for playing Hocus Pocus by Focus. And the entire movie is edited in a way that puts that Suicide Squad trailer to shame. The movie is a 2-hour music video. Every scene prominently features music, and the edits as well as the gunshots and explosions are all perfectly timed with the song that is perfectly placed in the scene. The opening scene shows the protagonist, Baby, walking down the street listening to headphones. The lyrics of the song he's listening to are perfectly placed in the light poles, storefronts, and the graffiti that's in the background. If you don't look closely, you're going to miss a lot of little Easter eggs like this. And since it's an Edgar Wright movie, you know there's that scene where somebody's watching TV and all the little snippets of the dialogue as he flips through the channels flow perfectly together to create a story on its own. The movie is a lot of fun, but unfortunately I think stylistically it is going to feel dated in about a decade. Right now it's very unique in how it was filmed and edited, but there's going to be a lot of copycats that are going to water down the originality of this movie. No CGI was used for the car chase sequences. The opening Getting Coffee sequence took 28 takes. This is the first R-rated movie of all time to gain permission from Disney to have a Disney clip in the movie. In this case it was Monsters, Inc. Kevin Spacey playing a bad guy. Parking garages, car chases, always wearing headphones, music videos, bank robberies, and attention to detail.
Number 4.
A dramatic take of the behind the scenes of the making of the worst movie of all time, The Room. American Movie, Ed Wood, Hugo, Mulholland Drive, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and Tropic Thunder. They're all movies about making movies. The Disaster Artist stands out in this group as it is about the worst movie ever made. Sorry, Plane 9 from Outer Space. Seeing The Room before seeing The Disaster Artist isn't a requirement, but it would probably help. Just a quick backstory for those who haven't seen it. The Room has the second longest theatrical run ever, only behind Rocky Horror Picture Show. This is a feat, as it is arguably the worst movie ever put on film. However bad that the movie is, though, it's just as charming. When you see it, you want to see it again, and you want to share it with your friends. You want to try to figure out what Tommy Wiseau was thinking when he made it. You're not going to be able to. The rhythm of the dialogue is as if Tommy Wiseau has never had a conversation with another human being before. The Disaster Artist is very well made, and the filmmakers definitely have a lot of love for the source material. James Franco is perfect as creator Tommy Wiseau, and he should have received an Oscar nomination for his portrayal. I can see this one being a movie that I'll revisit over and over again. Based on Greg Sestero's book, The Disaster Artist, features more cameos than any other movie in 2017. I don't know this is true, but I feel like it is. Bad acting, James Franco's butt. Overacting, inhuman logic, going along with your boss just because he pays you well, moving to LA with your best friend, idolizing James Dean.
Number 3.
Just your typical rom-com, where a couple's love for each other is tested by an unknown illness that requires a medically induced coma. Based on the true story of Kumail Nanjiani from Silicon Valley and Emily Gardner's real-life relationship. The movie is funny, it's sweet, it's sad, it's uplifting, and features great performances all around, including the rare dramatic performance by Ray Romano. The chemistry between the two leads is some of the best chemistry that I've seen on screen since Richard Linklater's Before trilogy. Now, director Michael Showalter is not really a household name, but he should be. He created MTV's The State, the Wet Hot American Summer franchise, and he also was one of the creators of the TBS show Search Party, which is one of my current favorite shows on TV. With this movie, he has now moved into the realm of anything he creates, I'm going to seek it out. The script took 3 years to write, and it's the first lead role in a movie by Kumail Nanjiani. Struggling comedians. Successful comedians in serious roles. Medically induced comas. Unknown illnesses. Hecklers. Hanging out with your future in-laws. Overbearing parents.
Number 2.
The true story about aspiring Olympian Molly Bloom, who ended up running a high-stakes celebrity poker game. From the very first scene of this movie, I could not wait to see how a girl would go from Olympic hopeful to Harvard law student to running one of the biggest celebrity poker games in the entire world, all before she was 25 years old. The dialogue comes in fast and heavy. The film was written and directed by Aaron Sorkin, famous for the fast-talking people in The West Wing, in The Newsroom, and in The Social Network. It also has a feel like The Big Short, the movie a few years ago about the housing crisis. The theme and the tone of the movie would not feel out of place in a Martin Scorsese film. I got a lot of Goodfellas and Casino vibes, especially at the beginning when it's explaining who all the players were. The 2-hour and 20-minute runtime flew by. This is absolutely my favorite screenplay of the year. Molly's Game is based on a true story, and I don't think any screenwriter could have come up with a story this interesting from scratch. I'll take real-life Molly Bloom as my strong female role model over Wonder Woman any day. Michael Cera's celebrity character in the film is thought to be based on actor Tobey Maguire. This is Aaron Sorkin's directional debut. Scoliosis, competitive skiing, pine branches, ethical lawyers, poker, true stories, strong women.
Honorable mentions. Number 1.
A white woman takes her black boyfriend to meet her parents and spend the weekend at their secluded home. What could go wrong? Lights out. Don't breathe. It comes at night. Hush. Before I wake. Get out. Newer horror movies always seem to have these cliche names. They just scream cheap horror movie with a gimmick. So when Get Out was released, I didn't really pay much attention to it. I thought I would probably enjoy it enough, but I didn't really see reason to go out of my way to see it. But then, a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes changed my mind. Get Out is a rare breed of film. It can be watched as a comedy, as a drama, as a horror movie, as a suspense, and even as a social commentary. And the social commentary is both very timely, and unfortunately it seems is also timeless. Not only can Get Out be viewed in multiple ways, it's the best film in each of those genres in 2017. This is the first movie written and directed by Jordan Peele from Comedy Central's Key and Peele. It is one of the best writing-directing debuts of all time. People are mentioning him in the same light as Alfred Hitchcock. Maybe a little too soon to put him on Hitchcock's level, but needless to say, it is a great film. The movie is laugh-out-loud funny, mostly thanks to Lil Rel Howard, who is also co-stars in one of my favorite TV shows of the past few years, The Carmichael Show. The movie is edge-of-your-seat thrilling, it's completely original, it's masterfully shot and edited, and it features performances that are much too good to be in a cheap horror movie. In fact, since 1990, only 4 movies have been nominated for Best Picture that were considered horror films. Silence of the Lambs, Black Swan, The Shape of Water, which honestly isn't really a horror movie, but it does feature monsters, so I guess that's how they classify it, and then Get Out. Jordan Peele controls every shot, and for the first time in as long as I can remember, there was actually a scene at the end of the movie, and I'm not going to spoil it here. It made my stomach drop, gave me the cold chills, and it brought tears to my eyes. Jordan Peele drew inspiration from Eddie Murphy's stand-up routine Delirious. It was filmed over only 23 days in Alabama. It's only 1 negative review on Rotten Tomatoes, and the same critic who reviewed it negatively also hated Toy Story 3, which I find impossible to believe. Deer meat, photography, blind art gallery owners, awkward encounters with your significant other's parents, running full speed at night, the TSA, hypnosis, trying to quit smoking, family businesses, and auctions. Alright guys, and that is my top 10 movies of 2017. Let me know what you thought. Let me know the movies I left off the list, and let me know the movies that I like that you hated. Love talking movies. Thanks for watching.